Hey guys, Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. We're back. I have been wanting to have this musical dude on the show for a while. Dar.Ra is with us all the way from Europe. Very excited to have him on. We're going to talk about music, of course, but then advocacy. And we want to talk about motivational things and film and all sorts of stuff. So he's got a great background. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you? And it's a privilege to be here. We've had a few little kind of like mishapping kind of moments that didn't quite happen, but do you know what perseverance is all about, don't you?
Right.
You know, it's a beautiful thing.
We definitely, I wanted to have you on the show. I think you're fascinating and have a great story to share. So we were going to make it happen no matter what.
Well, this is what I love about you, Ted, man. You got that never say die thing going down, man, and I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan.
All right. So thank you for that. That means a lot. You know, I love that kind of feedback because you never know if how you're coming across to people, and my heart's in the right place.
You're a great facilitator. There's no doubt about that, man. Well, you know, you're a great facilitator. So that's cool.
Thank you.
So hit me with
let's learn about you. Enough about me. They know me and see my crazy, ugly mug on a daily basis, but my audience might not know you.
You are far too modest, Ted, with that lovely mugshot of yours. So yeah, my name's Dar.Ra, and I'm a musician and a writer, and various other kind of things to kind of blow my flute with. And yeah, I've been making records since the 90s. I was signed to EMI Records when I was like 20 something. And then I went on and made records for sort of Warner Brothers and various other. Had a few hits in the UK and Australia as well. Lived out in Australia for 5 years and produced for a couple of their labels, big labels like Festival Records, and had a hand in kind of remixing some of their artists. John Stevens and some of from Hunters and Collectors. They're big Australian bands that any Aussies kind of would know. And yeah, I spent some time out just living in Sydney and traveling and touring with bands kind of up the East Coast and back down and out towards Adelaide and stuff. So yeah, I kind of had some good periods, you know, doing that. And then back in the UK, sort of in the noughties, setting up a record label called Pusha Deep Records. And then yeah, just because the whole music industry thing really changed on
digital,
the onset
right?
of the
Digital changed the whole thing, right? Not radio killed the video stars.
Industry. It did, man. It really did. Digital changed the record industry, and so yeah, with the onset, the downloading things, the industry just changed kind of overnight. And I think if you didn't sort of see that happening post Napster, you were kind of you were in a bit of an illusion. And I think we've been sort of trying to adjust ever since, really, to that new paradigm. And there's pluses and there's negs with it. Like the fact that we can get out and reach each other and play an online show to thousands of people is a phenomenal vibration. Of course it is. And I think the gatekeepers that once were have shriveled into the background, which is great. There's still a few of them around. But I think they're becoming sort of like, equally less and less. I think, again, pluses and negs, that, you can't really focus too much on music sales as you did maybe before. But then there's other things that you can do as well to sort of to fund that up. And
merchandise.
As long as the music, I think as long as the music doesn't become too diluted, you know what I'm saying, and that is your focus of what you do, and then hopefully that you make good enough vibrations that people will want to get involved in, and as you quite rightly say, sort of like then people will support through other means, you know what I'm saying. But I'm just an advocate of making the greatest records you can possibly make, and not worry too much about how that's going to. So I kind of cross the board. I get bored really easy, so I'm always moving around a little bit. Like people will say, you're into your rock and roll. Yeah, of course I am. I grew up with it. Do you know what I mean? But then I love my kind of R&B. I love my groove stuff. I made kind of records, house records in the 90s when house was just a mere baby coming out of Detroit, and listening to a lot of the kind of Detroit kind of cats. So yeah, I kind of crossed the board, and I like to create little hybrid sounds. So I've got this kind of vibe called rock step, which is a mixture of rock and EDM on the album New Kind of Normal, where that really features quite kind of heavily. And then I've got like this other vibe, like gothic soul music, which is kind of gothic but soul mixed together, and you know, whatever I kind of feel kind of like, you know, I want to do, you know, like operatic metal could be next. I don't know, man. Do you know what I mean? But it's like,
well, you have a gift,
anything
obviously. You're gifted. You are musically gifted, and you've got, because a lot of people can barely sing happy birthday. So it's, I believe, I'm not one of them, thank God, but I've been with people who try to sing happy birthday. So to have that much talent, not only on the artist side, but on the producing side as well. It's one thing to be able to sing your own music. It's another thing to be able to lift up and produce other artists.
Absolutely. I think, you know, listening to, you know, being influenced by people like Prince, for instance, you know, when Prince kind of like brought out, you know, he really came on my radar about sort of like when Sign of the Times kind of came out, and I would have been sort of about 18 or not, you know, around about that age. And I hadn't really got into him up until that point, but I was just really turned on by Prince in such a big way. And, you know, the fact that he was a producer as well as an artist, as well as a great guitar player, you know, piano player, every instrument under the sun. But he was also really savvy kind of business wise as well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he had,
yes.
You know, at 18 years old, he walked into Warner Brothers and said, look, give me the money. I want to run my own label, and set up Paisley Park. So, you know, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, like, I think if you could, you know, no one's ever going to touch the legacy of Prince, no one, because he was just such a trailblazer. But you could try and sort of, you know, maybe reach a few little kind of semi or highs of your own. Do you know what I'm saying? But I just felt that he laid the gauntlet down. So at an early age, I knew that sort of like if I wanted to be all things to all people, I kind of needed to cover a few angles. So production, you know, writing, producing, you know, it was the key. And so, but I was lucky to kind of be in, you know, getting signed at an early age to you know, EMI, making records for, you know, other labels and stuff. So I got to sit behind some really cool, talented producers and engineers that really knew their stuff, you know. And you know, I'd literally beg to sort of, because most of the time an artist, once he's done his bit, will be asked to leave the studio and leave it to the producer to kind of get on with it. But I was kind of like, I begged the producers to say, look, man, can I stay? I promise you I won't say a word. Because I just wanted to learn, you know. And there wasn't the sort of rock and roll schools or the school of production things that there are now for people. You know, you had to really learn. You only really got a chance if you were in the studio with those people. So I learned from some really great people of how to conduct myself in the studio and how to make sure every hour that I'm in that studio that I'm making it happen and I'm making things work. So yeah, you know, I was just,
And
you know, lucky.
you're also an author. We're a little delayed, so I'm not talking over you. I'm sorry. You
No.
you're an author too, and I want to talk some about that. We can get back to the music at the end, guys, I promise. But talk about your work and your books.
Yeah, so this one I put out. I had a sort of a bit of hiatus from sort of making records in 2017, I think, and I'd been on a road actually from about sort of, I don't know, I think it was about 97 really to 2007. You know, in and out of the UK, out in Australia, out in America, down in Central America, you know, right across the board. And I just kept meeting really amazing people, and you know, hearing incredible stories that I just felt kind of like I had to keep writing down. Do you know what I'm saying? So by the sort of, I had this book full of kind of these character stories from sort of Aboriginal guys that were brought up, you know, in Christian kind of like families, taken from their kind of like their indigenous surroundings, and but having this incredible faith about this guy that I'd met. And he sort of kicked the book off actually. So each story, each chapter is a kind of is an archetype, right? So I'm looking at kind of what makes us human. And the thing that I got from this guy was this incredible power of faith and prayer. And when those two things are mixed together, man, like serious miracles can happen. Now, I'm not advocating in a book that you should be religious in any way. I'm just saying, look at what happens when you have that combination together. And I'll give you the reason why I was blown away, because I met this guy in northern Queensland, and it's real hot, man. It's like north of the equator. It's tropical. It's, you know, it's rainforests. And I met this guy based in a place called the Tablelands, and he was with his family, and there was loads of people kind of just, you know, he was the only Aboriginal cat with his family. Do you know what I mean? And I was just drawn to him. I thought, you know what, I really want to go and talk to you, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's few and far between that you get those interjections with Indigenous people. Do you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of them are on reservations. Do you know what I'm saying? And actually quite wary of kind of outside influences. But this guy, man, was just really open, and he had these piercing blue eyes. And, you know, obviously full Aboriginal kind of colouring, man. Do you know what I mean? But he was just powerful. He was like, he had that Jesus type energy about him, real powerful, healing kind of vibe. And I was just really drawn to him. So we just got talking. And as I say, he told me this story, right, that he was originally sort of like taken away from his family. It was called the Stolen Generation. And they were taken away from their families, and they were brought up on Christian reservations. That's another story. But he had learned faith through that. Do you know what I'm saying? So he used to play the mandolin, and he used to go to church every Sunday, man. And he'd play the mandolin in this church, right? And he also worked in a sheet metal factory, cutting sheets of metal and doing whatever he did with them. And said that one day he was basically cutting this metal, and this metal thing came down and cut his hand clean off, right?
Wow.
And they yeah, man. And I could see the scars. There was no kind of BS going on. It was the real deal. And I said to him, wow, you know, you know, so basically what happened? So he said, like, you know, they kind of iced it. They got me to the hospital. They sewed it on, but they said it would never work again. It would just be a lump. Do you know what I mean? But he said that he spent like 18 months of his life just in prayer, and in, you know, he had the faith that one day he would be able to play again. And within 18 months, he said that he went to church on this particular day, and he said to the pastor at the time, he said, look, is it cool that I'll play? And obviously he's going, you know, I don't know, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, if you want to, you know, but it could be a bit of a train wreck. And he said that he took the mandolin out of the case, and he picked it up, and he said he played like an absolute angel, like he'd never played before. So I don't know what that is.
Chills, man.
Yeah, all I know is that when you have faith in something, and when you use the power of prayer and the power of intention, that incredible things can happen. And it doesn't mean that you have to be quasi-religious into any faith. It just means that those two things that you have faith in, whether it's faith in the universe, faith in yourself, faith in a God, whatever it is, if you use that higher power, that strength, you can make miracles happen, whether it be healing miracles or whether it be manifestation miracles, where you manifest the life that you kind of want through your belief systems, the whole law of attraction kind of idea. You know, when you use that, and you do not allow, you know, other people basically to get in the way of your kind of visions, right?
Where do the vibrations come in? Because that's all part of this, right? Because you mentioned, just, you know, to let y'all know, we were Dar.Ra mentioned about vibrations before we went live, so I've been holding on to that one because I'm fascinated by that, and that all goes with what you were talking about, the universe, prayer, faith. I mean, vibrations are a very powerful thing. So you're the expert, so I'm gonna let you talk on that.
Well, look, everything works on vibration, because everything, the whole universe is basically geared up on frequencies. So frequency is a vibration of sort, whether it be a light vibe that the light energy, if you like, that we see through our eyes, or a sound frequency, which then will create a vibration of sorts. And those vibrations create certain kind of triggers within our body. So musical vibrations will have either a positive or negative effect on us. You know, if you use a kind of a Tibetan bell across your chakra region, if you like, we're going deep here, you know, you will feel a vibration, you will feel a cleansing across from your base chakra up to your crown. If you allow that to happen, if you allow that vibration to happen, or even if you don't, it's a thing. So everything is frequency. Colors are frequency. Green is a color, is a frequency. that if you don't have the color green frequency in your life, it will cause insanity. And that's why people in cities who aren't exposed to nature will actually vibrate at a very, can be actually quite self-destructive. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we actually need that frequency in our lives in order for us to be balanced. Hence, when you go into a forest or whatever, you know, you feel that chill straight away, not only because you're getting pure oxygen, do you know what I'm saying, to your cells, but you're also kind of like vibrating again and reacting to the frequency of the color green. Do you know what I'm saying? So everything is a vibration, and vibrations, like you walk into a room, you have a sensor, you will feel vibrations straight away. You can feel a vibe off me straight away, whether it's going to work or not, because your intuition is geared to go, this cat's going to work or he's not. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's all vibration. If you didn't pick up on vibration, you'd be missing a major part of your senses, your higher senses. Do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is,
you integrate music with it.
Well, you know, you can't not, because music is vibration. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, like I did an album with an amazing producer out in Australia, a guy called Orlando Allen, who happens to be the son of David Allen, who is one of the greatest rock and roll guitarists that ever lived. He was in a band called Soft Machine, who was sort of like real avant-garde kind of psychedelic band in the 1960s, like 67. They toured with Jimi Hendrix's first tour of the US, when Jimmy basically went back just before Monterey. Do you know what I mean? So David Allen basically had seen it, done it all. But Orlando, obviously being brought up in that environment, was like almost like a carbon kind of copy of where David was. Do you know what I'm saying? So I was lucky enough to work in their studios on an album that actually was based on vibration. It was based on the chakra system, working the Kundalini energy, which is like obviously the base energy in the spine. And we did it. We were hooked up with a girl that did these workshops, a girl called Dar.Ra, and she was basically exploring into what vibrations work to release certain kind of like blockages within your system. And so we did a lot of kind of experimentation and sort of research into, again, frequencies, and finding which frequency worked out, honed in on sort of which chakra point. And so we made this album called Breathe, which is really, it was a sort of a way of kind of showing people that you didn't need drugs to get high. You know, that whole taking drugs was a real fallacy, that you needed to take drugs to be creative or to get high or whatever. Because this album, if you actually do what you follow that album from the base up to the crown, you will come out feeling so high, and it'd be such a pure vibe that you'll be floating. So she was doing these workshops across Australia, and she wanted an album that she could put on that would work from start to finish. So we ended up doing an 18-month stint, me and Orlando, creating this record from scratch, which is quite incredible. So I learned a lot about, what vibrations, what frequencies work to create, certain releases. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the key of F sharp, man, is like what the Indians use. When you hear certain ragas that are in the key of F sharp, they're really working on the crown, the third eye and the crown chakra. That vibration is really kind of piercing those areas to kind of create that kind of that space of awareness. And and again,
something with dementia patients too, correct?
Yeah, I did. And again, sort of, it's the same tip. It's using kind of like music to create cognitive movement. So for instance, I was doing, again, fast forward, doing a workshop in a dementia care home local to me. And I was kind of up on the whole NLP thing, because I found, I don't know if you know too much about NLP, but it's a really amazing modeling system that models kind of like, the top hypnotherapy cats, Fritz Perls, all those dudes that were kind of bashing out kind of like new ways of, like Virginia Satir, who was using language back in the 70s to kind of create, openings in your mind. So she was basically saying, cool. If there's
amazing.
Yeah, she would say stuff, if there's a front of a room, there's a back. So if there's a front and a back to a situation, it gives you an option So there's never ever like, oh my God, like I'm stuck, because you can always kind of find an option if you use language in a certain way. So if someone comes to you and says, I've got depression, for instance, or I've got anxiety, the classic kind of like Freudian model will say, okay, sit on the couch and tell me all about it. Well, that's kind of like, that allows you to identify with the issue, whereas NLP flips that on its head and goes, it doesn't allow you to identify with the situation. So it's breaking up the cognitive patterns to change the synapses movements. So the brain starts to rewire after a period of time. So if you break the kind of the momentum of what triggers the depression, you actually, over a period of time, you start rewiring the brain. And therefore, like, you know, then you start looking back and going, oh, I don't need to do that anymore because my structure of my brain. And that gives us all hope, because it means that this, you know, this, we're not stuck unless we've got absolute brain trauma, i.e. physical brain structure trauma. Then we've got options, you know, with psychological sort of like issues, i.e. things that we build up to think are real. We can actually sort of like find ways around that by using language, by using, you know, Milton Erickson's hypnotherapy kind of like, you know, models as well. So that's why it's so powerful, because you can use like, the modeling thing allows you to basically see excellence and then just model it. So that's why you're seeing like a lot of sports dudes now, you know, using NLP because they're modeling excellence. So if you were working with like a top sports cat, a quarterback or something, who wanted to emulate like, you know, someone that was really like kicking some serious ass, to use one of your phrases, you know, you would be modeling the micro movements, right? You'd be moving the micro movements of like, what does he do when he's just about to pick that ball up? Where's his breathing? You're looking at the micro management system of exactly what, you know, to make the clarity of what he does, and then you're picking up on that, and they would do what you call trying on. So you would try that thing on and see if it works. And now over a period of time, you would start bringing your own vibrator, your own thing into it. So you would wear that initially, see how that was done, and then put your own, you know, your own understanding into that in order to create further excellence. So the model keeps breathing. It can never stagnate because it's always moving forward. So
many large
that's why
corporations are using NLP as well. Like, it's really become part of big business.
Yeah, and that's where you've got to be careful that it doesn't get used to manipulate people, because it's very easy to use language to manipulate.
That is so true.
You know, so
all right, so I don't want you to not perform. We have to have you back to talk. I love NLP. I would love to talk more about vibration. So we will have you back to focus on that, because I think people are fascinated by vibrations, and NLP, but it would be really cool to have an in-depth conversation about that, especially someone like I love what you do, and I love how you've incorporated into your activism and your helping people and your music. So, all right, enough about me. Yeah. Tell me about you. What are you performing?
So I'm going to do a song for you called "Stand Up for the Heroes." Now, I wrote this for all the key workers and frontline workers, basically, that have been keeping us afloat while this whole pandemic thing's been acting out. And I just felt that sort of like, you know, when this basically rolled down the line, you know, and no one really knew what it was about. You know, you had shop assistants, you know, without masks on at the time, still serving, still making sure people had food. You know, you had people, you know, the bin guys rocking up, taking away the refuse. You know, all these dudes who were just kind of key people that kept the ball rolling. And I just felt, you know, every Thursday in England, they were kind of coming out and clapping the kind of, you know, all the medical kind of crews. And we lost a lot of medical people, you know, frontline people. Yeah. And I just felt, you know what, I think we need a song that actually pays tribute to those guys. So I wrote this song. It's called "Stand Up for the Heroes."
All right, that's it.
Stand up for the heroes. Stand up, all those who give their tomorrows. Stand up for the heroes. When it came to the call, wings carried us on. tell you the way that I'm feeling. Can't believe the things I'm seeing. World is unsteady on its feet. Trying so hard, others close their eyes. Oh, we may not hold back the time. Stand up for the heroes. Stand up, all those who gave their tomorrows. Stand up for the heroes. When it came to the call, the wings carried us on. Oh, 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 oh. You know that I will never forget their faces. Fallen in battle, but never lost to me. Never has so much been owed to so few. Oh, the sacrifice will never be replaced. But I will try. Oh, I will try. Stand up for the heroes. Stand up for all those who gave their tomorrow. Stand up for the heroes. When it came to the call, the winds carried us on. I will never forget the tears that I fought. Stand up for the heroes. Stand up for all those who gave their tomorrows. Oh, we gotta. When it came to the call, winds carried us. Oh, come on, you gotta stand up. We gotta stand up. Oh, you know that. We gotta stand up for the heroes.
Woo! I love it. That was so good. Fantastic. I love the message. I love the message. All right, Dar.Ra, finally we did it. That was amazing. How can people reach out to you about your books and your music and what's up next with you? What's the best way for them to find you?
Okay, you can find me just if you want to search Dar.Ra. That will come up on obviously on a Google, or the label's Kusha Deep. That's KUSHADEEP. And if you / that on sort of Twitter or on Facebook, then my pages will come up there. And then if you want to kind of check the books out on Amazon, that's actually my full spelling. That's DARRAGH BRADY J Brady, and the book's called Road Tales, and the other one's called A Night That Jimmy Died, and we'll talk about that next time. And that is also my full spelling, DARRAGH J BRADY Brady, and yeah, get into it. It's a good read. Each one's different. One's fiction, one's kind of the real deal. Yeah, and obviously I'll come back on, Ted, when I got another book to talk to you about. You know
I'd love you to come back on.
Yeah, man,
I
I'm
think
cool with that. Totally.
I would love it. All right, my friend. Thank you. That was awesome. You've got some love, so go
Thank you.
on after the show's over and respond. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was awesome.
Cool. Thank you very, very